I am Cheyenne McGriff. I am a full-time realtor with the Soderquist team at REMAX Results in Rapid City.
I am Trevor Madsen. I'm a loan specialist at Unify Home Lending here out of our home office in Rapid City. I cover the South Dakota and Wyoming territory, doing loans in both those states.
And today we are going to be talking about adaptation. We're talking about the housing market now and looking ahead. To be very clear, no one in this world knows exactly what's going to be happening next, but we just want to talk about the things we're seeing, changes we're seeing, and how we are adapting. Don't forget, if you have any questions, type them into the Q&A and we will address them above. So let's get started. First, I wanted to just do a quick intro of my team. I am with the Soderquist team at REMAX Results, and I cannot miss the chance to introduce my Karen Soderquist, my grandma, and David Harstad that I work with at REMAX Results. And I wanted to start by giving a quick market on tap update. So for comparison purposes, I wanted to compare March 2019 to March 2020, when the COVID-19 really information and restrictions started to happen. So March 2019, you can see that the average sold price for a house in Rapid City, and I also include the Box Elder area because that's very much part of our Rapid City community, $246,118, which compared to March 2020 was about $238,000. So really not a significant difference there. Days on market were 33 for March 2019 and 32 for 2020. Not really a change there either. There were more homes sold in March 2020 and more listings in March 2020. So it really didn't have an impact on what was happening in our local market at that time. I wanted to talk about April as well, just a quick snapshot. It's hard to do a comparison yet because we're only 9 days into April, but I just wanted to show what's trending so far. Now for April 2019, you can see that the average home sale price was $224,509. Days on market were 41, 100 homes sold, and 117 listed. Now you can see on April 2020, we're moving in a good direction so far. There were 27 homes sold and 41 new listings, and we're only 9 days in. So as far as tracking, it looks like we're on track for close to the same numbers. I also did a quiz before I did this webinar because I wanted to see how people in my sphere were reacting and thinking about the housing market. And this is not any kind of fancy scientific quiz. This is a quiz I did on social media, but the reaction I received was really positive. I just asked people how they were feeling about the housing market, and 73% said positive, which I thought was great feedback because on the news we just hear a lot of negativity. And the other most popular response was unsure, which is very understandable because I think we're all a little unsure about things at this time. I also asked on my quiz what people were thinking of buying and if this changed their mind about buying or selling. And some people did change their mind about buying just because of a change in their job situation. But most people said no, it didn't change because they still had to move at a certain time, still had to sell at a certain time, just taking extra precautions. So I want to talk a little bit more about what spring home buying and selling looked like before all of this started to happen and now. Before, it was a crazy market. Now, please know that I'm speaking from my personal perspective. I'm not speaking for all agents as a whole. I'm not speaking for REMAX Results as a whole. I'm speaking for my experience, and you can ask any other agents what theirs are. But before all of this, it was an extremely busy spring market. I had several buyers that were looking in a very popular price range under $250, and if a nice house would come out on the market, it would be difficult to get my clients in the house before it was under contract. There were agents writing offers right out the back porch, agents writing offers in the driveway, and I would submit an offer on a property and there would likely be 3 to 5 other offers come in that day. It was extremely busy, and I just saw the trend continuing to go, and really was kind of hunkering in for a crazy summer. Now things have still been busy. If it's 2 weeks ago, I wrote 3 different offers, and 2 of them were multiple offer situations. So it's still a very busy market. People are still looking and people are still selling. Multiple offers are common. It's just been, as the theme of this slideshow is and presentation, is adaptation. Everybody is having to adapt to our current situation. Now, there are people that are either waiting to put their home on the market until things slow down, or they feel more comfortable having people in their house, or buyers are waiting because job changes or they don't feel comfortable going out and looking. But online traffic has really spiked. So to our website and to our social channels, we are seeing a lot more online traffic and people clicking, asking questions, coming in from those online spots, because what are people doing right now? If they're not working or very busy with their kids, they're online. And this is a big pro tip for sellers, that your photos and videos of your property are more important than ever right now, because normally buyers start looking online, but right now that's really the only place they're seeing the house, because sometimes they can't get in. So just please be aware of that if you are selling. And the South Dakota Realtors has provided us with an addendum we can use if something goes wonky in the transaction because of COVID-19. And that's something that I would talk about with you separately, but just so you know, the South Dakota Realtors is helping us with that in case the transaction does have to pause or be extended because of effects of COVID-19. Now, a couple things to be doing if you're thinking about buying or selling. Now is a great time for buyers to be prepared. You'll want to talk with a lender and get pre-approved for your home loan. And Trevor knows much more about that process than I do, but just make sure all your ducks are in a row so that when you are looking to buy, you will be ready to go. It's a good time for buyers now, and I'm not going to talk about rates. I know Trevor has that in his presentation, but for buyers, there is a little bit less competition right now. There might be fewer houses because people are waiting to put their home on the market, but there's a little less of that crazy competition than there was just 4 weeks ago. And for sellers, if you are taking some time right now and you think you might want to sell in the next 3 to 6 months or a year, now is a really great time to get your house ready to sell. So you can do a lot of little things like painting or cleaning a lot, decluttering, fixing like the trim around your windows, making sure all your window screens are not ripped, and making sure you don't have leaks in your plumbing. I can send you a whole list if you're interested, but just doing things like that to have your house ready to go when hopefully the market is back to normal. And next slide. Just a few things that we've been doing to adapt to our virtual world that we're in. We already were in very much a virtual world, doing meetings over FaceTime, meetings over Zoom. It's pretty normal to be doing those things, but now it's way more common. So and like I said, I'm speaking from my experience, I have eliminated a lot of face-to-face meetings and only doing them when necessary. So what does that mean? My process now, as it was really already just more of an extreme now, is when I want to meet with clients, I set up a virtual meeting, either Zoom or FaceTime, and then I'll email them a questionnaire to get to know them. And so we can get to know each other and their goals for buying or selling. With buyers, we do some virtual house hunting, whether that's me sending them videos that another agent has done, or me doing a FaceTime or Zoom tour through the house to eliminate the need for them to see the house unless they really need to. Sellers, when they want to list, I will first set up a video tour with them so that they can show me through their house and eliminate one point of contact that might not be necessary till we have to go in for pictures. And then I explain to them how virtual showings will work, as that's the way we're moving. Email all the necessary documents that they need to sign, because we have a great tool to do e-signatures, so we don't necessarily have to have everything signed in person. And hosting virtual open houses instead of the traditional open house, letting a bunch of people in, touching all your stuff kind of open house. They are virtual now. That makes it easier for people to attend and more comfortable for the sellers. And just a few safety precautions that I have been taking when doing any showings. So my client safety is top priority. If they feel more comfortable wearing a mask, I can sure do that. And I've been wearing gloves, putting on a new pair every time I go in and out of a house. So I'm not touching a bunch of stuff, touching my car, touching a new house. Just put on a new pair of gloves every time I go in. And please know that I am in no way a CDC certified anything. And I'm not telling you how to not get the virus. I'm just telling you about some of the safety precautions that I have been taking. Also, hand sanitizer everywhere. And we do have a REMAX form that we were provided that has a bunch of tips for how to handle showings and screening questions that we will ask every client just before doing any showings. Also with sellers, I've been asking them to leave all their doors open, obviously except for the front door, and all the lights on when possible, because that eliminates the need for me or a buyer to go through and flick lights on and shut and close doors. And that's worked really well. And I just have an upfront conversation with buyers if they have to go in and see the house, that they just not to touch anything, or try not to sneeze on stuff like that, to be safe. And also limiting showing attendees. So sometimes when you have people looking for a house, they are excited, obviously, because it's a very exciting thing to be buying a house, but they want to bring all of their family and their extended cousins and their brother-in-law who's a home inspector and their uncle who's a plumber, everybody to the showing. And we're limiting the need for anybody who just has to be there to come into the showing. And that has helped a lot as well. And it helps from people maybe seeing houses that they just want to see for fun, because that happens with buyers. So just trying to have only necessary showings and necessary attendees to protect buyer and seller safety. So overall, what I am seeing is that spring and summer home buying will be different, but nothing in real estate is ever for sure. So adaptation is key. And be prepared for that. Be prepared to meet virtually, be prepared to do e-signs, be prepared for virtual tours, and be flexible, because nobody has all the answers right now. We're all trying to figure this out together, like the whole world. So just be flexible and patient. Also consult a professional. Don't just go online and Google what's happening with the housing market, or are open houses illegal, or anything like that. Like, don't. Just contact a professional human being that can help you, whether that's your real estate agent or your lender or the title company or your home inspector. Make sure you talk to the actual person and don't go off of some online information that might not be true. And just stay positive. Stay positive, continue spreading the good news instead of focusing on the negative. And I think we'll all come through this together fine. That's it for me. Now, Trevor.
Awesome. Thank you, Cheyenne. That was awesome information. It's awesome to see kind of how your side of things is shifting, and you guys dealing with that adaptation. You know, you can say it over and over and over again. We're all in this together. We're living in unprecedented times. Okay, we're in the life-changing circumstances. That's why we're here talking to you about the adaptation in the market, and I want to talk to you kind of about how the market is looking from the financial side of the fence. I would say not a whole lot has changed as far as, you know, the way that we conduct business. Our office is closed to the public right now. We're in full force, just like, you know, Cheyenne's team is, but that is following the CDC's recommendations on tightening up and having less contact with people. But as far as my my day-to-day duties go, I mean, I receive all my paperwork online. People, you know, email, they text, get that stuff to us. So there's not, you know, a ton of transaction going on in person. So other than, you know, setting up a home office and doing everything remotely now, I would say the only thing that kills me is I'm an extrovert. I like to get out into the town. I love going to the office and seeing everybody. So for me, you know, it's been trying to get a little bit of social interaction, also while following those CDC recommendations. But Cheyenne, can you go to the next slide? Is that you controlling that? Thank you. So yeah, talk about rates. You know, that's one of the main points that everybody wants to get to when they are looking to buy a home or refinance. So a little bit of background on what's been going on with the rates, and we'll have to go back a month. That feels like 5 years into March. And mortgage rates fell really hard. They fell hard. They fell fast. And the mortgage industry saw a overwhelming amount of purchase and refinance applications. So not a bad problem to have. People taking advantage of those historically low rates. But what happened was we had a brief period of phenomenal rates. The industry, the pipeline filled up across the board, no matter where you were at. People were getting inundated with loans to work on. And that, that equates to having so many appraisers out on the street, having so many inspectors out on the street, having so many closings that you can, fit into a title company in one day, so on and so forth. So what happened was the industry needed to catch their breath. So what they did was they artificially inflated those rates, which, then we kind of moved into this whole COVID deal. The pandemic kind of took hold, and the Fed's purchased an unprecedented amount of mortgage-backed securities. And what that does is when there's a huge purchase in the MBSs, it pushes those rates down. So they saw those rates inflated up. They bought those rates down. And then, with people being put on unemployment or furloughed, and just the folks that are affected throughout our country by the COVID deal, what they did was they tried bringing the rates down, and then they put a stop on doing foreclosures. What that was doing was putting a ton of financial liability on servicers and kind of devalued the liquidity in the industry. So as far as any difference I'm seeing right now on government loans, it's a little bit difficult to obtain a rate at a decent price, just because of they're trying to curb taking on more debt during this issue, and the Fed's working on it in the back end. Now, with that said, everybody can look around. We have phenomenal rates. Rates are crazy good, historically low, even with everything going on, and we're seeing it's business as usual. As Cheyenne said, maybe she's got, less offers on a home, but they're still getting multiple offers on homes. Some people are pulling back, they don't want people coming through their houses and everything like that, but the market's hot. And so we are expecting, that trend to continue. And as the Feds work on my side of things, as the Feds work on what they're going to do on the back end to kind of level out the industry and support the servicers, that's just gonna, once we get out of this this timeline right now of what we're going through, we're gonna come out of it and we should see still historically low rates. So it's okay to be buying now. It'll be great to buy in the future and refinance. So that's, those things are all on, we're on par for that. It's just kind of getting through the mud right now. So next slide, please. So changes, there's just been some tightening up, and that kind of goes back to the servicers, the liquidity side of things, and protecting assets. So what they were doing is, they're trying to take care of this debt that they're holding on right now, that people are forbearing their mortgages. Those bills still have to be paid one way or another. So the industry is taking on that debt. Meanwhile, rates are really great. Real estate market's booming. So applications keep coming in. But what they're looking at right now is trying to take the cream of the crop. If there's any dirt on it, they're going to want to scrutinize it. So what have we seen? FHA loans, they've upped their credit score requirements. You can see, you go on and look, 680, I think, is the number. We at Unify will do, 660, and then we can go even lower if the file looks clean. So that's something to look at. Closing delay for borrowers who had hours cut or been put on unemployment or furlough. Obviously, to obtain a mortgage, we have to show that you are employed, that your income is going to keep coming in, and there's really not a stop there. So that we have seen, some of that where people have been like I said, laid off, they're on unemployment, they're furloughed. And so we put that on pause. And once they get back to work, we can get, letters of explanation and things like that, stating that, employment is back to normal. So self-employed borrowers, are just seeing a little bit more documentation to make sure, business is good, and along with some more reserves in the bank. But the business is still strong. We've seen some tightening up. We've seen a little bit of slowing down, but all in all, people are still buying homes. Every day I'm getting multiple applications to go over. So people are still working, people are still getting paid, people are still buying homes. And that's it's I would say it's taken a slight downtick, just because people are kind of unsure on what's going to happen. Some people, they had some money set aside for a down payment. Maybe they're hanging on to that now, just anticipating their needs coming up and other bills that they're going to have to pay. So you can still get a loan. And the key to success in all of this is good communication. And that's something that Cheyenne and I stressed. We talk all the time when we were working on a deal, talking to the customers all the time when we're working through deals. And the fact of the matter is that there are some loans that 30 days ago we could close easy. And now, 30 days ahead where we're sitting now, we got to go back through and look through that and make sure everything looks good. But it's really nothing too detrimental at all, as we stand right now. So I wanted to touch on forbearance, and this kind of goes all the way back to what I was saying about the industry and the servicers and them kind of inflating those rates and constricting the guidelines, tightening those up. And the reason being is because, like I said, a lot of people are out of work, and it's unprecedented times. Everybody's kind of scrambling, trying to get their feet back under them and just see how this whole thing is going to play out. And like I said, it's great. Forbearance is great if, you are having difficulties and you have a mortgage and you're laid off and now you're not working, get a hold of your servicer, explain it to them. Something that's been put into place is there's no requirement to prove hardship. So you can call your servicer, tell them that you lost your job, and they will put you on a 180-day forbearance. It gets a little tricky because the way that it's been shown to people is kind of like, hey, this is a pause. We're going through some difficult times. We can pause your mortgage. Once all this clears up, we'll unpause and start back up again. So there's obviously, like I said, the people who are in dire need and desperately need to curb that because they got to keep the lights on, they got to eat, they got to do all these things. So of course, yes, forbear your mortgage, but talk to your servicer and ask questions on exactly how that's going to play out. Now, the other end of it is, like I said, it's kind of been spun as, hey, everybody, kind of pause your mortgage. But what might happen, and this is of course depending on the conversation that you have with your servicer if you are in the situation. But if your mortgage payment's $1,000 a month and they put you on a 6-month forbearance, once they lift that, let's say they lift that 6 month, you're at the end of that, everything's back to normal, people are going back to work, your servicer could call that whole amount due at that time. So not only that, that 6 months of $1,000, $6,000, but then the month that we're in, once they unpause, that's your next mortgage payment. So essentially $7,000. Again, not saying that that's necessarily what would happen, but that is a possibility. And some people call and they just say, give me forbearance and don't ask a whole lot of questions. Some people might think that everybody's going to get a pass on this and just aren't going to pay their mortgage payment. And that is the last thing that you want to do. But the reason being is, if we see 20% unemployment and those people don't make their payments and they go into foreclosure, it's just going to be a hard cross to bear for the industry when they've been making these payments and then they get out of it, and then we get out of it, and then those loans are foreclosed on. So also beyond the as Cheyenne mentioned, and as I mentioned, we do a lot of things over the computer. We're emailing, we're FaceTiming, we're on these Zoom meetings, all these kinds of things, and a lot of information can be going back and forth. So as we've seen with wire transfers and things like that, scammers are moving into that realm, and it happens all over the place, and they're getting so much smarter. Everything looks so much cleaner, and so people are getting taken advantage of. So especially with this time, if you get a call from somebody talking about forbearance, just be on the lookout for scams and scammers looking to take advantage of you and during this coronavirus time. But there's a lot of fraudulent calls, emails, texts, things like that, offering to help you, trying to get your personal information. So just make sure that you're talking to your loan officer, your servicer, whoever it is, but make sure that you're the contact reaching out, that you're the one asking the questions, because you're going to be the one that's picking up the pieces. So it's unprecedented times. There's a lot going on, and there's changes coming down the pipeline hour by hour, day by day. And so again, that communication is key. So when I am working on a deal with Cheyenne and we have a borrower, if there's a change in guidelines or just really anything in that aspect, we got to pick up the phone. We got to be in communication and talking about the whole thing, just because things can kind of tweak in an instant. So, and that's all I have. So we can open it up to that Q&A.
If you have any questions, just type them in the chat box. It looks like we have one right now. And the question is, do you foresee virtual showings becoming more popular even after COVID-19 is over? Will what you're doing now potentially change how you show house in the future? Thank you for that question. That's a great one. So I do think they might become more popular. I was already doing a lot of virtual showings. Just in the kind of the economy and the space we live, we all know that we help people that are coming to serve our country at Ellsworth Air Force Base. And a lot of times they are in maybe a different country or a different state. And we do a lot of FaceTime or virtual tours that we have to send them because maybe they're in a totally different time zone where they can't even be awake when we are. So virtual showings are very common. I think that video will become a lot more popular for listings than it is right now, because that has eliminated a lot of unnecessary showings. You can get a feel for a house a lot better in a video than you can just with pictures, because sometimes pictures make things look a little different than they are. And it's just very convenient. So that's the only question we have.
I think you're right, Cheyenne, and just the way that we are moving forward anyway. Obviously, everything gets more technological. We're moving every day more towards a digital existence, and I think that this will be something that just kind of expedites the process. I think a lot of people are realizing right now that there's a lot of things that we do day to day that are in person or just not digitally, that we realized, oh, we can be doing this digitally, and it's quick and it's clean, and you one click e-sign documents and everything like that. So I think that you're right. I think that this will be the boost of what was already kind of being perpetuated, and this will just be the push into that for more normalcy.
No, I agree. Saves a lot of time too.
Yeah, it does. And probably you a lot of miles.
Yeah, it's accurate. Any other questions at all? Like 1 minute. Oh, ugh, this is a good question. I don't know if I want to answer. It says, from the trends, does it seem like there will be a crash in the housing market like there was back in 2008? The only thing I'm going to say about this, because I don't know and no one knows what's going to happen in our world, but real estate didn't cause this. So real estate should be able to jump back if it's in a decline at all, because it wasn't the cause of this problem. But I'm not an economist, and I don't know what's going to happen.
I totally agree, and it's hard to say. Yeah, we can't predict the future. I mean, we're really taking this, like I said, hour by hour, depending on the day, on just what's happening, what's changing. You know, we've kind of been, I think, the deal that happened in 2008, yeah, was a direct result from the housing market, and it took years and years for us to climb back out of that. What's going on right now? This is man-made, and you know, hopefully we're flattening the curve, and when this whole thing lifts, instead of years, instead of taking years for us to move out of this phase, hopefully it'll be months. It'll be months. I mean, we're not seeing people lose their jobs and in their houses for. It's people are losing their jobs right now just because businesses are closing. So once that starts up again, we should see an influx of people going back to work, and that'll be something that we'll have to, you know, kind of work toward as an industry too. In, you know, let's say you were at your job for 10 years, super steady job in a super steady industry. This little blurb right now, you know, you're going to get back out of it and get right back into the swing of things. We've got to find, you know, common ground on getting those people into homes and not using this as something that there's already enough on people's plates. You know, we don't need to use this as a platform to deny somebody housing. But that is, you know, said they need to figure out something to do with you know, with the feds and the mortgage industry on what they're going to do with that liquidity, because, you know, if we see 25% foreclosures when we get out of this because of the forbearance and people owing $7,000 at one time, and they can't do it and they can't come to an agreement with their servicer and they just get foreclosed on, I mean, that'll be something that really sets us back. So I think, you know, like I said, they're working on that on the back end to kind of relieve those issues. So are we going to see something that happened in 2008? It's really hard to say. Depends on, I suppose, on how long this thing goes on. But they've been doing a lot to try to make sure that the economy doesn't fall down. The government's injected billions of dollars into the economy with these bills that they're passing, propping up really the whole economy, but also focusing hard on the mortgage and the real estate industry, because that is a cornerstone. That is a cornerstone of our economy. Rates are good. Let's get people into homes. Let's get people spending money.
And the economy was strong before this happened. Extremely strong. As opposed to what was happening back in the crash of 2008. The economy was not as stable. Unemployment was higher. And so we had a very strong economy before this. So my positive outlook is that after this, everything will go back to normal and it'll be busier than ever because people have been waiting to put their house on the market and they're just going to be ready to go when this is done. But that's my
rolling into, we're in spring, we're rolling into summer. It's people going to get some sunshine. We're going to come out of this thing. Houses are going to hit the market, and rates are going to reflect that too, and we're going to be ready to go. Like I said, as Cheyenne and I have stated, applications are coming in like crazy. People are looking at houses like crazy, and houses are on the market like crazy. So we might see a pinch, down the road here, but as of right now, we're rocking and rolling as usual with some exceptions.
Another question, are you seeing sellers having to lower their prices, or is it still a strong seller's market? I would say a little of both. It's still a strong seller's market. If houses are priced right when they come out, they're going under contract still very quickly. But I think it's going to help with some places that have been overpricing, but still getting sold and appraised at those prices. I think it will help with that a little bit, but I don't see it happening too much yet. But watching April going into May will be very interesting to see what happens with pricing, if anything. Good question. Any other questions? Guess while you're thinking, if not, and Trevor, you can say anything you want to do, but I just really want to thank Elevate Rapid City for the opportunity to speak on this today. It was so awesome to be able to, like we just said in the chat, to share some positivity, because I do feel very positive about things. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you didn't get the chance to watch the whole thing, or if you have somebody that wants to see it, you can check the Elevate Rapid City Facebook page. They will have upcoming webinars, and then this one will be on their YouTube as well. So for me, thank you so much, and I hope everyone stays safe and healthy.
Thank you, Cheyenne, and yes, thank you, Elevate Rapid City. This has been it's been my pleasure to be on here. You guys are, I love what you're doing with your platform, and just so everybody knows, this series, this training, if you want to call it that, of what we're doing, Elevate Rapid City has been doing that, and they've been covering, everything from health insurance to mental health issues, marketing to business resources. So continue to log in and check out what they're doing. They're doing big things for our region and for our economy. And if there was something that you missed, you can find previous webinars on the Elevate Rapid City YouTube channel, and view upcoming webinars on their Facebook page as well. So very cool. Thank you guys.